Welcome to another episode of How Positive Are You? I'm David Crowe, president of Rethinking AIDS from Calgary in Canada, and with me again today is my co-host, Elizabeth Ely from New York City. Hi, Beth.
Hi, how are you?
If you would like to leave feedback on this episode or any other episode, please email us at info@howpositiveareyou.com, comment on our blog at howpositiveareyou.com, or on our Facebook page, which is called How Positive Are You, or see us on Twitter at HPAY. We have another amazing story today. With us is Lizé Oosthuizen. Lizé, you'll have to help us with the last name.
Oosthuizen?
Oosthuizen. Okay. A white South African woman diagnosed HIV positive in 2004 and put on AZT, also known as Retrovir, right away. But she quickly stopped and hasn't gone back and has lived a life healthier than most. In her case, it is particularly hard for the infectious theory of HIV to explain how she became, quote, infected, unquote.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story, and I would note that Lizé is a white, affluent South African, relatively affluent and educated. So that kind of lays a little bit of background to who we're speaking with, and I'm sure you'll say more about it, but I think it's important to make that distinction for some reason. It just seems like class and race is very much a part of how people get this and how it's presented to them.
Yes.
So come on over, Lizé. Are you there?
Hello, yes, I'm here. Hi, David. Hi, Elizabeth. It's great to be here. Thank you for taking the time to interview me.
Yeah.
It's wonderful to meet you.
Yes, both of you too.
I'm really excited about this. Having read your story, I have a lot of questions. But why don't you first take us back to 2004 and explain why you got tested, and then when you got diagnosed positive, what your thoughts were at that time?
Okay. It was actually in October of 2005 that I got tested. And the reason was actually I was engaged to a guy at that stage. And he had some health issues and went to the doctor, who then sent him for multiple blood tests, one of which was HIV. And when that came back positive, I was advised to get tested as well, which I then did. Of course, at the time, it was quite a shock because, like most people, you believe HIV leads to AIDS and, that it's just basically a big health crisis. It was quite surreal, actually. It wasn't something I ever thought I'd need to worry about. I've never never used drugs of any nature. Even prescription drugs I use with caution. And I'm not promiscuous. So to me, it really did feel like a nightmare or a dream that, I'd wake up from any moment. I do remember thinking, though, that no matter what the results, I will not get ill, or succumb to AIDS. So, yeah.
So, in other words, you're the person this shouldn't have happened to.
Well, yeah.
In the whole morality tale of who you have to be to get this, but then there's the other morality tale that says, this can happen to anyone, and,
yes.
Spreading hysteria. So it's two different stories conflicting with each other.
Yeah, and the fact that your boyfriend was positive, I guess, lent weight to the theory that he had infected you.
Yeah.
What happened? I mean, you obviously broke up based on your story. Do you know what happened to him in terms of his health in the future?
Actually, as far as I know, he is on the AZTs. He is on some medication. The last time that I spoke with him, but that was a number of years ago. But I do believe he's still carrying on. He's still healthy to the best of my knowledge. But unfortunately, I don't have much contact with him anymore.
Yes. You said that your numbers were pretty good, that your CD4 count was not very low and your viral load was extremely low, and yet they put you on AZT, also known as Retrovir or Zidovudine, almost right away, or right away. So what did the doctors say about that?
Yes, actually, just give a bit of background for those now listening and not knowing. My CD4 was around 500 when I originally got tested, which is in the normal range. And my viral load was 40, actually, at the time. And the doctor that I went to originally is actually a GP, so he doesn't actually specialize in HIV. I presume he doesn't actually have any patients in that particular situation. And I think his logic at the time was, because the viral load is still so low, perhaps using the AZT would, get it under control and get it out my system completely.
So the logic
really?
is, if your numbers are good, you should start the drugs before your numbers get bad, and if your numbers are bad, then you have to start the drugs right away. So I guess it simplifies it to start the drugs now. But
yeah. If I could interject here just a little bit about what's related to that point, is that for a long time there was this idea that you hit early, hit hard, and then when they got people like you ensnared in things, people started noticing, hey, I'm not sick, but they'd say, no, you have to take this, and like you said, the theory was that it would just knock out the infection, so you'd be good to go. Well, that's what they're calling a functional cure these days. Anyway, and then they backed off from that because, obviously people were noticing that that they weren't sick, then they got sick on the drugs. So that wasn't working propaganda-wise. Then if they waited 10 years and you got sick, for any reason, then they'd have an excuse to put you on the drugs, and then you'd see that, oh, I was sick anyway, so getting sick on the drugs isn't that much worse. And now they've realized that they've given people 10 years to think about it, especially people like you who are educated, and it seems like they're going back to this idea that, you can hit early, hit hard, but maybe if you just do it for a short period of time, you won't kill people off, and they won't have too much time to think about it. Then you can just tell them their viral load is low and they can go. So there's just all these theories. Either way, you lose. It's strange. I don't know if you'd noticed that.
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's so easy to also, just blame, once you're on the drugs, if you were already getting ill or having some symptoms from whatever reason, they'll put you on the drugs, then you get ill on the drugs, and they blame the illness, and they just say, but the drugs are doing what they can. Unfortunately, AIDS is, stronger, and it's going to, you're going to have more symptoms. And then people just.
It sounds like in your case, you were healthy, and then you questioned this because did you get some side effects? Did you get very sick on the AZT?
Actually, I didn't. I was on it for such a short period. It must have been about a week or two. I really did not stay on it for very long. And coming from a family where we don't really use chronic medications, we don't like to use actually any prescription meds, because, we know what the stuff does, and it's not just AZTs, it's for many health conditions. I was very reluctant to start in the first place. And when I was referred to the virologist by my GP, he also confirmed, he said I should not be on these AZTs, and he advised me to stop immediately. So I, at that point, just decided, in that case, I'm happy to stop it, and I'll just rather do my own thing in a natural way.
And you haven't restarted AIDS drugs since then?
Oh, no. No, not at all.
And your health, which was good when you started, has remained good for we're close, it's 8 years now, right?
That's correct. It's going for 8 now, and my health is perfect. And what do you say to that theory that there's this so-called incubation period for HIV that's 10 years? So you've got another couple of years, and then you'll get sick, is what the royal they, are saying. What do you think?
I personally believe that you have control over your own body, whether it's through your mind or through your lifestyle. I do believe if you take care of your system, you take care of yourself, it is very difficult for any disease to get you under. That for me would be true of cancer, of most diseases that you can think of, diabetes, anything, and certainly no different for HIV.
Mm-hmm. So what would happen if you got a serious lung infection a year or two from now? Would this throw all your theories into doubt, or would it seriously shake the foundation of what you're doing, or would you still have some resources to think about this outside of that?
I definitely would then be looking at what I'm doing wrong in my life at that stage. I would probably, because personally I have to say even though I am healthy and I try to look after myself as best I can, I don't particularly go out of my way, to drink health smoothies every day and exercise and all that. I don't do anything specifically at this stage that's very extreme, I would say, or, anything that, you could say that because I'm doing that, it's keeping the virus under control. I live a very normal life. So,
right.
yeah, I would
So
then perhaps.
yeah, I've noticed that. Sorry.
It's perfect. So I would basically then just look at improving my lifestyle, because I do still eat a lot of processed foods. I do drink quite a bit of wine, actually. I'm kind of into that line of work. So, yeah.
Working in the wine,
the wine
industry?
Yeah, I'm starting there. I'm actually a personal assistant at this stage, but my father has bought shares into a wine farm, and I've been getting very involved there. So, it does require me to go to a lot of tastings, to drink quite a bit, and so like I say, I really don't go out of my way to be exceptionally healthy. There's room for improvement, if I can put it that way, if need be.
Yeah, but I think that you seem to have kind of a sense of humor about it, that health isn't that pinpointed, that it isn't it isn't like you have a glass of wine and you die of pneumonia the next day. But so I've noticed something among particularly gay men in the United States. They might start out as questioning this, and rightly so, and say I'm healthy, just like you did, and instead of taking your route, which is just pretending like there's nothing wrong and just going fine, and there is indeed nothing wrong, they get suddenly obsessed with their immune system, like the test means something. They keep telling me the test means something. So they go on these, like you say, health smoothies and juicings and things like that. And I think it's, in a sense, it's a little bit counterproductive, because it gets your mind on this all the time. You're constantly checking your numbers. In fact, they'll even keep score with CD4s and viral loads, which is really, really bizarre, keeping score about how well their juicing regimen is going. And, of the two, I would probably prefer your macaroni and cheese and red wine diet. It seems like the power of the mind is like 10 times more powerful than the power of the diet. Although what you say is you really do wish that you could be a little bit more healthy in your diet.
There are people who feel that, okay, I can beat this disease in some other way, as opposed to saying I don't have disease. I would just like to ask you, Lizé, you do have these so-called HIV antibodies in your body, and I believe you've tested multiple times. Do you have a theory for why you have these antibodies and most people don't?
Actually, that is one of the more difficult questions that I really don't know how to answer, because I've read so many different theories on this, and many of them make sense. Perhaps even all of them. I mean, there are people who say that it's something in your DNA. There's theories that it's oxidative stress, that it actually is a virus, but it's man-made. Other people that think it's a natural virus that has just come up. And so personally, it's one of the few things I don't have. I really don't actually know how to answer.
Yeah. Well, did you just get that one positive test and then never try to test again? Because it's possible you could have tested negative and indeterminate in all these different ways that some people do. So, in other words, people test positive, and then they never seek a second opinion. They never test again. They keep testing and testing until they get positive, and then they stop. Have you ever tested again?
I have tested a few times again. Some of them was with the PCR, the whole full count and everything. Some of them was just the ELISA, most of them the ELISA. And then, of course, those home test kits, I've used those as well.
And everything came out positive.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Another issue that you've had to deal with is just the social aspect of being HIV positive. Like you said, you've had a couple of boyfriends since then, and you've told them both that you were HIV positive. But it must constrain your life in a pretty big way in certain aspects of your life, particularly sexual relationship.
Yes. Look, I would say out of the entire HIV issue, that is the thing that bothers me. Nothing else about it bothers me except for that. I'm actually currently finding myself in a situation again where I've started seeing somebody, and the time is now coming, where you have to break the news, and, it's always just to find the perfect timing to do that.
And how old are you?
I am turning 31.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a difficult age to be going through this.
Yeah, I guess so.
I guess you just need to find the person who is up to your level of thinking.
That is definitely true. I mean, I guess with the previous two, in that respect, they were like-minded. But, of course, the relationships ended for other reasons. But for sure, definitely, normally if I would get involved with somebody, you check them out and you first see, would this be somebody who could possibly understand what you're telling them and could accept it? If not, then you rather more just move on and you don't take it any further.
It's not like it's that they have to have actually considered this issue, but it's almost in relationships that you want a certain constellation of thought patterns in a prospective partner that resonates with yours. So, I'm not likely to go out with some guy who's, shooting cans off the back fence, I want a guy who's like into other things, more generally. So I think that's very well taken. That it really does separate the sheep from the goats.
Yeah. Did these guys at all kind of get the bigger questions about HIV and AIDS? I mean, was this just a personal reaction, like I'm okay with you, or did they start to understand that the whole HIV/AIDS thing was much bigger than that?
I believe they did start getting an inkling of an idea that there is something bigger. Especially the most recent one, the second boyfriend I had. He actually went in online and he did the whole research thing himself, and he actually came up with questions himself.
Okay.
So, yeah, I do believe.
That's good. And you need to do this to protect yourself, because I don't know what it's like in South Africa, but in North America and Europe, I mean, people have been prosecuted for having a sexual relationship without revealing their HIV status.
Well, look around here. I've not really heard of anything like that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was happening around here as well.
Yes. Do you know other people in a similar situation to yourself, white, well-educated people who don't fit the sort of the stereotype of the poor black South African? Do you know other people like that who are HIV positive, or do you sort of see yourself as alone?
I don't actually have anybody that I really know. I have met one person, actually. It was through you, actually, somebody that contacted me. But that's the only one I know of. We've never actually met or so forth. But no, nobody else. So yes, well, one does tend to feel a bit, like an outcast. You feel different from other people, even though logically it shouldn't, but you do. Yeah.
But your family has been quite supportive. They know your status and they've been supportive?
Yes, for sure. My mother has particularly been very supportive. I mean, she's helped with research, and she's actually gone and taken this whole alternative health and healing stuff way overboard now. She's actually, she can't get enough. So she's helping everybody with any health issue. Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible. Did you say you are working with your mother in some capacity, kind of like Tina van der Maas is working with her mother? Or did I get that part wrong? That you are actually providing resources to other people in understanding this?
Yes, we do try where we can. We're not really in business like that. You don't approach people. If they come to you, you help. It's mostly diet related, lifestyle related that we try to help people on that level, yes.
So you're fairly public about your status and about what you believe?
I would say so, reasonably, yes. Most of my friends know, family members know, so yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Interesting. And so has there been any backlash from that, from maybe people just outside your family, maybe just beyond that reach?
Actually, no. I must be honest. Most people, when you tell them, they're a little bit shocked. But when they realize you're okay and you're okay with it, and you can be a bit more candid about it, they treat you normally, and it's as if there's nothing there. No, that you're no different from anyone else.
And do you think that the fear and interest in HIV and AIDS in South Africa is declining? Are people kind of jaded that they're not seeing dead skeletal people in the streets, and therefore the impact is lessened?
I can basically say from my direct experience with friends and family that now know what we're doing, and they realize that I'm not getting ill, that I'm okay, they certainly are less fearful. I've actually had a friend who told me just about 2 months ago that she doesn't even worry about HIV at all. It's, previously, she would have been slightly concerned about it. Not that she needs to, but, she wouldn't worry about it now like she would have previously if she were to be diagnosed. But I think mostly there's still people people I would socialize with mostly, I guess. They don't find themselves needing to worry about it because they're not in that situation. So I think people still don't, basically they don't worry about it unless they need to.
Right, so, but there's still no real pushback against the AIDS establishment because people are either isolated like yourself, or they say, well, maybe it's all a crock, but what could I do about it? And it's not affecting my life, so I don't really care. And now I don't have to worry about it, so I'm happy. And the people who are making money from it go around, with trying to show people how to put on condoms and take AIDS drugs.
Yeah. No, that's exactly pretty much what it's like. Yeah.
There's this propaganda in this country about your country that there's this dangerous complacency that people aren't worrying enough about it, and also this propaganda that David and I personally, just the two of us have gone into South Africa and changed people's minds or something. I mean, when you look at it, it's really maybe David and me and a handful of other people affecting all this thinking in South Africa, and nothing could be further from the truth. I wish we had that kind of influence. So it just doesn't occur to people here that people in Africa actually have brains and they can think. And especially when you get into mandatory testing, you're getting into classes of people who have an education and can look things up and have the money to buy a computer and get on the internet. So that's becoming a problem for the establishment in this country as well as your country, where you get people like Jenny McCarthy protesting vaccines because they believe they cause autism. So it's just what you said really reinforced for me that people are willing to think. It's maybe not something that is widespread on this issue, that it doesn't come up for them, but they are willing to think. Don't you think? I mean, it's a fairly intelligent country.
Yes, for sure. I do think there's a large misconception about Africa, or Africa in general. But, South Africa being quite different from the rest of Africa as well. People tend to use the term interchangeably. I personally haven't even been to the rest of Africa, so I can't really talk about what's going on there aside from what you hear on the news. But generally people here are no different from people in America, no different from people in Europe or Australia. You have your different classes. You have people who can think for themselves, those who don't fare so well there. But yeah, it's really no different.
Right.
In your socioeconomic class, the people around you, do you think people are getting HIV tested, or do they see this as a problem for the Black community and something they don't need to worry about?
It's a difficult question to answer. I'm not 100% certain, but I would not be surprised if people are not really getting tested unless they've got a reason to go. If they don't have a reason to be tested or they don't think they do, then I very much doubt that many of them will go for tests.
But that's different than the Black community where they go around deliberately trying to round people up and test them, right?
Well, obviously being Black is a reason to get tested implicitly in that practice. It's just like, you're white and middle class. Why are you worried about this kind of thing? It's built into it.
There's something in medicine I think it's called ascertainment bias, which is if you go looking for something, you find it. So if you test a bunch of people because you think they have HIV, you find people who are HIV positive. And if you don't test people who you don't think are HIV positive, you don't find it. And so that reinforces your stereotypes, that it's related to Blacks. And Lizé, would you say that the prejudice in South Africa is that Blacks are more promiscuous than whites? And that's why they're getting HIV infected more commonly?
I think so, yes. I do believe people do think that way about it. Definitely.
There would be no way to really find that out, to have a statistic like that. I've thought about that in the United States. And what I've basically come to a conclusion about Blacks versus whites in terms of how much sex they have relative to each other is the only reason that we know that Blacks have more sex than whites is because their music is sexier than ours.
Well,
that's it. There are no objective studies of this kind of thing.
Well, actually, I think there has been some studies by a condom manufacturer, and I think that supports the theory that many Black societies are actually very conservative and less promiscuous than whites. I mean, if you look at the white media, magazines and television and things like that, it's obsessed with sex. And I think it's more so than the Black media. So
seriously? I don't know. I mean, I know that I was at a bar one time and a couple of African American men asked me what I wrote about.
Is this a joke?
Yes, it is. It is a joke. There is a point here. There's a punchline. They asked me what I wrote about. And I said, well, AIDS and all this stuff. And I said, it's such racism that they're saying that Black men are just going after anything that moves. And they looked at each other and they went sort of like, well, we certainly hope so. And it was like high fives all around. So, it's like they're not exactly debunking that notion, but nobody really knows.
Well, yes, I think people are more dishonest about sexuality than just about anything else except drug abuse. And people in both directions, like I think a lot of people exaggerate their sexual prowess, especially males, and also other people will deny things if they think it's socially unacceptable. So it's very hard to get an accurate picture.
We learn early how to lie about sex.
Yes.
And I'm sure that South Africa is no different. It's a culture, like you said, much like Western countries with different classes and multi-ethnic. South Africa is multi-ethnic in the extreme. I mean, it's a very, very large melting pot of people.
Definitely.
Yeah. Would you say you are Afrikaner or you are British? Or I take from your name that you're more like Afrikaner.
Yes, I am actually. I'm a bit of both. I've got some Greek blood in me as well, so there's a little bit of a mixture. But yes, I am Afrikaans, and but I actually do consider myself English because my education was in English, so it is my first language.
Okay. And do you speak Afrikaans as well?
Yes, I do. My mother always spoke Afrikaans to us. She is Afrikaans, so I'm perfectly fluent in Afrikaans.
Right.
Yeah. Very interesting country.
Yes. Going back to HIV status, have you tried to change your status, or have you thought about, trying to become HIV negative, and would that be for the stigma if you have done that?
Definitely, I have tried before, but to be honest, there's so many different ways apparently that one can do it that you tend to start on one thing, then you find something else, and you think, okay, well, maybe this will work better. And then you don't stick to any specific regime for long enough to actually have an effect, I think. So I have definitely tried it, but it's never been very serious because I don't really take the whole HIV diagnosis seriously. But again,
neither do we. So it's kind of a moot question, like why would you want to become HIV negative? But I think there are legal reasons why you want to become HIV negative. And I think our listeners would be interested in hearing what are some of these ways that people are claiming you can become HIV negative.
Most of them, MMS is particularly one that I've heard of. I'm not sure how familiar you are with MMS.
No, not familiar at all. What is it?
They call it the miracle mineral supplement, and it's basically a form of of chlorine, if I can put it like that.
Chlorine?
They actually use it to cleanse drinking water.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, and it's not your regular chlorine. I forget the name now. I think it's chlorine sulfite. There's a slight difference in the molecular structure.
There's something that might clean up your drinking water, which is a huge problem in certain parts of South Africa.
Okay, well, Wikipedia, which is, of course, never biased on things like this, calls MMS the colloquial product name for a toxic solution of 28% sodium chloride in distilled water.
Toxic.
The product contains essentially the same ingredient as industrial strength bleach before activation with a food-grade acid.
Oh my God. Yeah, that doesn't sound like something I'd get into.
It's not 100%, that's definitely not 100% true. I've used it, and I've got to tell you, I've had no problems. No issues with anything.
You mix it with another acid, right?
It's citric acid. So you take the MMS, then you activate it with a citric acid, not ascorbic acid. The ascorbic will actually deactivate it. And then you dilute with water. Now you can drink it.
People have had success with this. People have had success with this in reversing the results of the HIV test.
Apparently they have.
What are some other things?
Yes, there are. Tina van der Maas has her program as well, which she swears by and it works, and I have been on her program as well. It was actually just after I was diagnosed, and my viral load was still at 40. And I was on her protocol for a number of about 3 months, and I went back for a blood test, and my viral load had actually stayed at 40 for over 3 months. So,
okay. And I have to stress that I'm really not into people keeping score with viral load tests. Yes. I mean, there are many, many reasons for that, which I won't go into, but, talk about useless goals. But ways to reverse the HIV test. I mean, I'm fascinated with this, and I'm sorry to hold up the conversation here, but just if you could list some other things that people have tried, because for legal reasons, they might need to do this.
Well, those are the two that I've found that are the most likely, the ones that have actually said that there is the most results. But then there's also the ozone therapy, where you can actually have that injected into your veins. I have actually done that as well, but I found that was, while effective, if you're looking at your blood, your loads, your viral load, because again, I had the test done just, to see if it's working. It halved my viral load from about 1,400 at that point to 700. But I didn't continue with it because the ozone therapy is a bit harsh.
Have you actually retested for the traditional HIV antibody test after doing these things?
Yes, I have.
So it didn't change the results at all?
No, nothing changed.
And in South Africa, do they just do the ELISA test, or did they do a Western blot as well?
I believe they only use the ELISA test. I'm not certain 100% what they will do in all cases. I think it could differ from laboratory to laboratory. So I'm not 100% clued up on that, so I don't want to lie to you exactly what they use, but I believe in my case they used the ELISA, and we followed that up with a PCR.
Okay, which is interesting because a PCR of undetectable is not considered proof that you're not infected. They seem to be confused about what the PCR test is.
PCR being viral load. Popularly known as viral load.
Because if they
genetic test.
if they used the PCR as a confirmatory test or the viral load as a confirmatory test, that would say that a viral load of undetectable means that HIV is being eliminated. But they say that no, it just means it's hiding. And therefore, viral load cannot be used as a diagnostic test because that destroys the belief that HIV cannot be eliminated from the body, because there's many HIV positive people taking drugs who have a zero viral load, and if it gets to zero, why don't they stop their drugs?
On the other hand, David, maybe you can answer this. There seems to be this. I'm detecting an upswing in confirmatory tests as viral load.
It doesn't.
Is that happening? That instead of confirming with Western blot, they're confirming with viral load these days?
I think they want to go there, but that's logically contradicts their assertion that people who are on drugs whose viral load has dropped to zero are still infected and still need to take the drugs. If they want.
It isn't like logic has stopped them before.
No. I mean, it wouldn't be the first illogical aspect of HIV/AIDS, but it is interesting that maybe in South Africa they're using viral load as a confirmation for the antibody test.
Yeah, very interesting. And also that they just seem to have a devil-may-care attitude about the accuracy of these tests there as well as here. But I sense in Africa they're even more willing to just jump on, one quick test and you're done, and not give any kinds of even pretense of confirmation.
Yes.
So, Lizé, I've pretty much asked my questions. I don't know, Beth, if you have any more, but I would like to finish by getting you to give advice to somebody who's tested recently positive or is thinking of getting tested. What would you say to somebody like that?
Well, best thing is if you have tested positive, go and do some research. Check out everything. Don't just believe blindly what your doctor is telling you. No, sometimes it's difficult because it's not, not everybody necessarily has the social support that I've been lucky to have. And, but do go do some research. Certainly follow what you guys are trying to get out there. Definitely sign in, log into this sort of thing, go and read. And, live a healthy lifestyle, take care of yourself. And I would definitely say, remember that there is such a thing as mind over matter.
Yeah. Well, I would say even mind over matter. I mean, it's just there's reality and there's fantasy.
Yeah.
It's, you don't have to be like, in some kind of denial. But I don't have any further questions, but I would just say, unequivocally, just according to reality, you people out there, don't take the test. I mean, how much do we have to put this in capital letters for you that this can ruin your life, and that the accuracy of this, as you have seen from this person talking to us for an hour now, is pretty suspect. So, putting yourself in the line of fire like that is really not a great idea, and it really kind of opens you up to all kinds of medical abuses and things. So I very much appreciate you telling us how you have actually gotten past this. Thank you.
Yes, Lizé, I think this is very important because there are many people who have tested positive who get freaked out whenever they hear about somebody who stopped the drugs and then had health problems or died or something. And it's so important to hear about people who sort of stepped back, decided not to do the drugs and went on with a normal life. I think it gives other HIV positive people a lot of confidence that they can look elsewhere for their health problems if they have them. That they don't need to look at HIV every time they get a sniffle or a rash or whatever, that HIV's got to be responsible, that it's necessary.
We're not promising people immortality or immunity from all illness. Everyone has a unique situation. But I think, as David mentioned, there's this superstition that, you go off your drugs and then you die. And I think that the more we do these interviews, the more we're finding that it's really more complicated than that.
No, for sure. I think the immune system is definitely the system that is the least understood in the human body as far as I'm concerned. So the best anybody can do is stay healthy, just live a healthy lifestyle. It's the best anybody can do to stay healthy from any disease.
Drink a little red wine.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
It's mental health as well.
Some people should stay away from that. Yes. But just maybe lighten up a bit. There's oftentimes the mental issues behind this. In fact, all the time, the mental shock of testing positive is going to be far more lethal than anything you can do to your body physically.
That's very true.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, Lizé. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure our audience will also enjoy this discussion.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you to you for taking the time, and I really hope that somebody out there has listened and it's helped them.
Yes, I'm sure it will. And so thank you, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
If you have questions or comments on any episode of this show, please send us info@howpositiveareyou.com or leave a comment on our blog at howpositiveareyou.com. Send us a message on Twitter at HPAY or contact us on our Facebook page, How Positive Are You? We appreciate all your comments and questions, and we'll try to answer as many as possible on future shows. Thank you.